What if the truth about Meghan Markle wasn't hidden in royal palaces, glossy magazine spreads, or smiling interviews, but buried in a beat-up box, locked inside her father's closet, sealed with shame, betrayal, and a warning to stay silent, or else? Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. That's the question unraveling everything right now. Because Thomas Markle, the man the world saw as a disgraced father, a media manipulator, a man left behind at the biggest wedding of the decade, is done being quiet. And the reason he's speaking now? Because Prince Harry just picked up the phone and threatened him. Yes, a threat, not just emotional pressure, not a warning from PR teams. According to sources close to the retired lighting director, the Duke of Sussex personally reached out and gave Thomas Markle an ultimatum: stay out of Meghan's way, or he'll be exposed in a second, brutal, no-holds-barred memoir that could make Spare look like a love letter. But Thomas didn't back down. Instead, he went straight to his personal safe. He opened files, letters, bank slips, phone logs, unsent emails. He found things he'd buried years ago, evidence he never intended to reveal. And in that moment, something in him snapped. Because if Harry wants a war, Thomas Markle says he's ready to fight one. And this time he's playing dirty. This isn't just about royal drama anymore. This is about money, lies, and possibly laundering. Meghan's own father claims he witnessed things that would make headlines across the globe. Transactions, disappearances, behind-the-scenes brand deals. And most chillingly, he believes some of Meghan's public charities may have been used to hide or clean up private income through a scheme of what he calls celebrity image laundering. Think that's extreme? Let me ask you something. How does someone go from near bankruptcy in Hollywood to a multi-millionaire duchess overnight, without a traceable record of how the money flowed? How does someone with a past full of financial holes suddenly start a charity empire, where not even tax documents can explain the missing millions? And how does a father, once proud of his daughter's rise, become the very person now pulling apart the illusion? The answer starts before the palaces, before Prince Harry, before the wedding that tore a family in two. It begins with a woman rising through Hollywood, slowly, strategically, always moving forward. A woman with ambition, yes, but also with connections, private deals, hidden trips, and a father who, for years, helped cover for her, out of love. But love fades when truth is buried too deep for too long. And when Harry threatened to drag Thomas's name through the mud, again, something inside him cracked. He's not just angry. He's not just broken. He's done. And that's where our story begins. Act 1, The Threat. It was late at night in Rosarito, Mexico. The Pacific air hung thick and salty. Thomas Markle had just returned from a checkup. He's had a rough few years. 2 strokes, mounting health issues, constant stress from the media circus surrounding his daughter. He says he was sitting in his recliner, watching the news, when his phone rang. Unknown caller. International. He picked up. What he heard shook him. According to a close family source, the voice on the other end was unmistakable: Prince Harry. Not yelling, not ranting, but cold, calculated. Back off, Harry allegedly said. There's another book coming. And this time, you won't survive the fallout. Let that sink in. Prince Harry, the same man who dragged his own brother and father through the mud in his last memoir, now threatening Thomas Markle? Thomas reportedly froze. He didn't argue. He didn't fight back. But the next morning, he got to work. He opened old storage bins, some of them untouched since Meghan's suits days. Inside were years of documents, some mundane, some deeply personal, and some, Thomas says, that don't just raise eyebrows, they raise red flags. He claims he found financial records, emails from third-party agents, printouts of old PayPal and Venmo receipts from suspicious sources. Even gift agreements from a certain Toronto businesswoman who, according to Thomas, helped funnel money to Meghan in ways that were never publicly disclosed. It was all there, sitting in a box, forgotten, until now. Act 2, why now? Why this moment matters. Let's be honest, there's been no shortage of Meghan Markle scandals. From her turbulent relationship with the royal family to the Hollywood power plays, lawsuits, Netflix deals, podcast drama, and her now-fizzled cooking show. But this is different. Because for the first time, the man who knows her before she was famous, before she was royal, is telling his side. And he's not stopping. Why now? Because Thomas says he's being backed into a corner. He's being blamed for Meghan's public image collapse. He's been called racist, manipulative, even dangerous. He's received death threats from online trolls. He's been painted by the media as a man who sold out his daughter for fame, when in fact, he claims he was the one silenced first. And when Harry allegedly threatened him with another memoir, he realized something chilling. If I don't tell the truth now, Thomas reportedly told a friend, I never will. And they'll win the narrative forever. This isn't just about family revenge. This is about control, reputation. And for Thomas Markle, it's about justice. Because what he claims to know could burn down not just a public image, but possibly an entire charity empire. Act 3. The Father, the Secrets, and the Cliff. Here's where it gets darker. Thomas says he never wanted to go public. Not like this. He says he stayed silent because he was trying to protect Meghan, even when she iced him out of her wedding, cut off communication, and turned the public against him. But silence becomes dangerous when it hides something more sinister. According to Thomas, there were times when Meghan asked him to move money for her. Small amounts, odd transfers, names he didn't recognize. He thought it was harmless, until the amounts got larger, until he was asked not to mention it to anyone. He thought it was just part of helping a daughter chase her dream. Now, he wonders if he was unknowingly helping her hide something much bigger. But this isn't just a he said, she said, because Thomas claims to have proof. And when we start digging into those alleged receipts, emails, flight logs, and money trails, that's when things really start to unravel. And it's not just about Meghan. There are names on these documents. Famous names. Hollywood power players. Philanthropy CEOs. A few international consultants with links to royal advisors. If what Thomas is saying is even partially true, it opens up a new scandal unlike anything we've seen from the Sussexes. And the most chilling part? He's reportedly preparing to hand all of it to an international journalist team already investigating Archewell Foundation's tax filings. We've only scratched the surface, because in the next chapter, we'll break open Thomas Markle's personal Meghan file. And what's inside? Let's just say, it's not fit for a duchess. What happens when a royal prince threatens an old man with a pen? Not a gun, not a lawyer. A pen, a promise, an ominous declaration. I'll write you out of existence. That's what Thomas Markle says happened. That's what he claims was the final push. And it all started with a call, not from a publicist, not from a palace staffer, but from Prince Harry himself. Yes, Harry, the Duke of Sussex, the man who once called the press the enemy of truth, now allegedly threatening his own father-in-law with another book, one designed not to share pain, but to inflict it. So let's rewind the clock. Let's go back to before Thomas opened the safe, before the folder, before the scandal. Let's start with a voice. One that used to be calm, diplomatic, even charming. Until it wasn't. The phone rang just past midnight. The room was quiet. The only sound was the whirring fan in Thomas's modest Mexican home. His health hadn't been great. 2 strokes in 2 years, and doctors warned him to avoid stress. But this wasn't just stress. This was war in the form of whispered threats. He didn't recognize the number. But when he picked up, the chill in the voice was unmistakable. Thomas. It's Harry. Pause. Silence. Then the hammer dropped. I'm writing another book, Harry allegedly said. And this time, everything goes in. Thomas sat up. He told friends later that he could feel the blood drain from his face. He asked Harry what the book was about. Harry's reply? You. Now ask yourself, what would you do if someone with the world's biggest publishing machine threatened to bury you in a best-selling expose? Would you panic? Would you beg? Or would you fight back? Because Thomas didn't scream. He didn't argue, but he did something else. He wrote it all down. Every word, every pause, every veiled threat. Then he hung up, walked over to his kitchen drawer, pulled out an old notebook, and scribbled one phrase. If he wants to expose me, I'll expose everything. But let's be clear, this wasn't the first time the idea of a second memoir had surfaced. After Spare, many assumed Harry was done. Done with throwing punches at his family. Done with making private conversations public. But sources in the publishing industry say otherwise. A senior editor at one of Penguin Random House's affiliate companies recently leaked that Harry had unfinished material. That Spare was just part 1 of a multi-phase book deal. And the second installment? It's darker. more personal, and, according to whispers, laser-focused on the people who sabotaged Meghan's peace. And at the top of that list? Thomas Markle. Now let's pause for a moment. Why would Harry, a man who has long decried media exploitation, be writing yet another tell-all? Why go after Thomas now, years after the wedding, years after Meghan cut off contact? Is it about control? Revenge? Or is something else brewing beneath the surface? Because here's where it gets complicated. Thomas Markle says he's being set up as a scapegoat. He believes Harry's memoir isn't about healing, it's about deflection. That Harry and Meghan know something far more damaging is about to come out, and they need a distraction. Thomas claims this second memoir is a preemptive strike, not a confession, but a smokescreen. And when Thomas got that call, when he heard the coldness in Harry's voice, he realized something crucial. If they're planning to take him down first, it means they're afraid of what he knows. So he started digging. He didn't start with the folder. Not yet. He began with old letters, emails, photos, reminders of a time when Meghan did call him daddy, when she sent him cards for Father's Day, when she flew him out to sets and introduced him proudly to her co-workers on Suits. But the deeper he went, the more contradictions he found. Dates that didn't line up, financial gifts that didn't match her income at the time, friendships that appeared out of nowhere, then vanished. And then, buried beneath a stack of dusty envelopes, he found it. The folder, labeled in faded Sharpie. Do not open. He opened it. Inside were documents he hadn't seen in years. Maybe he'd forgotten them. Maybe he chose to. But they were there now, in his hands. One was a printout of an old PayPal transaction. Another, a receipt from a private jet company. And one, more disturbing than the rest, was a signed agreement between Meghan and a consultant in Toronto with links to overseas nonprofits. Thomas didn't know what it all meant yet, but the timing was damning. Because if Harry was threatening a book, and Thomas just uncovered this, maybe the two things were connected. Maybe Harry knew what Thomas had. Maybe he was trying to bury it before it exploded. Here's where it gets explosive. A family friend close to Thomas claims he considered going to the press immediately. But another friend, a former colleague from the lighting industry, offered him different advice. Don't go public yet, the friend reportedly said. They'll deny everything. And you'll look like a bitter old man. That stung. But the friend wasn't wrong. So Thomas changed course. He contacted someone else. Not a journalist. Not a lawyer. But a retired accountant. Why? Because some of the documents in that folder didn't make sense. The numbers were strange. Too round. Too perfect. And some of the accounts didn't trace back to Meghan. They traced back to aliases. That's when Thomas first heard the term, celebrity laundering. Now pause right there. What is celebrity laundering? It's not always about drugs or offshore crime. Sometimes it's about reputation, image, a controlled narrative funded by backdoor deals, layered shell companies, and charitable fronts that don't quite pass the sniff test. It's using nonprofits to funnel personal gains. It's hiding PR deals behind partnership donations. It's presenting sponsorships as philanthropy. And according to Thomas, Meghan mastered this early. How early? That's coming up next. But ask yourself this. If Thomas really does have evidence of financial cover-ups, if Meghan was using charity or image laundering to clean up her Hollywood rise, why would Harry be calling now? Why not months ago? Years ago? Unless something in Spare was intentionally left out, held back, protected. Because if Meghan's name ever showed up in real financial investigations, Harry wouldn't just lose his wife's reputation. He'd lose his own. So Thomas sat on the documents. He didn't speak. Not yet. But he made a decision. If Harry writes that memoir, if the Sussexes go public with attacks, he's not just going to clap back in an interview. He's going to open the files. All of them. He's already digitized them. He's already sent copies to trusted sources. And he told a friend something haunting. I may die before the truth comes out. But when it does, they'll never recover from it. And that's where things turn again. Because Thomas didn't just stumble on documents. He found a link. One that connects Meghan's early career, private jet trips, cash movements, and a name that keeps surfacing again and again. A name we'll reveal in the next chapter. Because that name? It's not just someone Meghan worked with. It's someone who helped build her brand. And if Thomas's documents are accurate, this person may have helped her do something far more dangerous than image building.